Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Welcome to the House of Dante, the latest entry into the Houselights series here on the Nerd Party Network. This week, we're continuing our series on the directed works of Joe Dante in the 1980s with 1985's Explorers. I'm Darren Moser, and I'm joined again by my friends Alien Whack Riddell and Police Chopper Pilot John Mills. Gentlemen, I'm in this movie. There's a Darren in this movie. This is a big deal for me. Let's talk about Explorers. Oh man, you don't even know. Like, Darren is not that common in a name. So, except for like Bewitched and like this movie, and I guess Darren Cross from Ant-Man. But there's, Do
you realize who you're talking to? You're talking to a John.
I don't care, Tristan.
And a Tristan.
I don't care.
Yo.
I don't even care.
Yo. I think that it's wonderful that you cast me as the helicopter cop, because I think really if there's a character that embodies my absolutely nonsensical emotional shifts from extreme skepticism and Batman-like hunting of something to sudden wonderment and wishing kids well. I mean, that's me. That's how I am.
So true.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's just a bunch of kids. Well, there's old dreams that I remembered. Wait, what?
But, hey, some fun stuff happens nonetheless, up to and including the start of the film careers of River Phoenix and Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke, yeah.
Which is, wow. Like, this is the starting point for them. How crazy is that? I didn't realize this was like their first movies.
But yeah, both Ethan Hawke, River Phoenix going into Stand By Me, and unfortunately not having the fullest of careers we wish he had. But yeah, Ethan Hawke, I mean, I think I just saw him on a poster for like a movie that's coming out this summer. It's like, he's still around. He's still going.
What's really funny is that I just finished Moon Knight right before I watched this. So I watched literally his latest thing and then watched his first thing back to back. It was crazy to see
that is the
similarities
of
and the differences.
That is Houselights right there. We should all do that.
Yeah, it is interesting because looking at them both and knowing where their future careers are going, like to your point, Tristan, where you said some of the stuff you could still see in Moon Knight. I haven't watched Moon Knight, but like, yeah, you can see he's old enough here that you can start to see certain physical habits developing that will carry through his whole career. He's old enough now for that to happen. Yeah. And River Phoenix was fascinating, is just thinking that it's only 4 years after this that he appears as the young Indiana Jones. Yeah. Like,
that's crazy.
Right. I can't see that 4-year gap.
It feels like
8. So much younger.
At least. Yeah.
It's nuts.
Maybe it's and he feels younger, even though he's playing like, not that he's playing an older child, but a mature child. Like, he's got the glasses. Like, he's not dressed young. He's dressed like an old man in a young man body for this role.
I just wish that they really explained a little bit more that he was a nerd and unpopular at school, because it was just too ambiguous.
Whoa. Wait, he wasn't popular?
I mean, Zefram Cochrane was
I know.
his father.
That's the thing. That's what I'm talking about.
Everyone would be excited.
It goes over a lot of people's heads, I think.
I totally missed that. They should have had some sort of scene establishing it very early. I don't know. Okay, look, in all seriousness, where his pants get torn?
Yeah.
Okay, look, I can promise you that type of, even back in the scary 1980s, that type of stuff wouldn't have been tolerated. The kid that did that to him would have been punished severely by the school and by, like,
you just don't go about your day with that. Like,
that's it. I'm just going home. Like, you walk in the door, my parents would have said, what the hell happened to your pants? And it's like, I don't know.
And especially the parents of River Phoenix's character weren't, like deadbeat parents or anything like that. Like, they were intelligent and attentive and everything like that. So yeah, it was interesting because I know that we're joking and we're talking about, yes, he's a nerd, he's unpopular, and he's bullied. All of them are bullied. But one thing that it was weird for me because I saw a lot of truth in it because it made me think like, oh man, like I grew up with a lot of violence in school, and like this was in the 90s and the early 2000s, and it made me kind of sad, but at the same time I'm like, okay, let's calm it down. Like let's bring it back. Like, where is the administrative oversight here?
Yeah, like, or even in the fight, like, I mean, you make the allowance for it being a movie and stuff like that, but a fight on school grounds will attract a teacher.
Yeah, there were no teachers at all, right? And then they like broke it up, and it's like, I mean, I know we see one of their teachers, when they're all falling asleep in the montage, but besides that, like, there's no teacher figure in this movie, which is kind of lacking. Usually in these kinds of movies, there's, Mr. Sullivan, who's the, AV teacher, and they all love him or something like that. It's like a staple.
Yeah, that's an 80s trope that I think actually would have done well in this movie. Like, they did it in Stranger Things, they did it in Donnie Darko, like both set in the 80s, and it feels like this would have worked there. Where there was a lot of times when River Phoenix character just kind of espoused or spouted out, scientific theories. And
I was going to say, imagine if the teacher was the one who had the dreams as well, and it wasn't this random helicopter cop. I think that would have been a much better connection. I see your eyes rolling deep in the back of your head, John.
Well, no, the thing is, it's this movie apparently had like a troubled editing process.
True.
Like, they bumped up the release date. Dante
was pretty much
never
like,
happy.
You're done. It's like, what?
Right.
What?
Now we're releasing the movie.
Yeah, the studio's like, no, I think we're good. He's like, yeah, but I just sent you a rough draft. Well,
it's
we're
okay.
Just
we're gonna put you out behind this little indie film called Back to the Future. You're gonna do fine. It's gonna be totally fine.
This goes right back to what screws McTiernan when we were talking about Last Action Hero.
Yeah.
Some studio suit says, no, we need to release something to counter program. We got to try to make it out to the theaters. It's like, why would you do this to somebody, especially a guy? Look, regardless of, what anybody thinks about, like, Gremlins was a certified smash hit.
It made tons of money.
Why doesn't he get a check to just do what he wants to do on the next one? Why would you do this to the guy?
That's a solid point. Like, you'd think he'd have a little cachet with Gremlins that would pass over to explorers. But yeah, what's the difference between the years? Like, between release? Just one. So it's possible. Is it possible that this was still in post-production when Gremlins was released?
I mean, this would have come out
probably.
Yeah, this would have come out in July of 85, and Gremlins came out like around a year before in 84 because it was a summer movie.
Yeah,
that's still. I mean, there would still be enough time to do some additional editing in between there. So I don't think that I don't know if that theory holds weight. But
this movie had a much bigger budget than Gremlins. This movie had a $25 million budget, which is much larger. And obviously, a lot of it went to special effects and models and costumes and prosthetics and all of that. But it did not do as well, only returning about 9 to 10 million at the box office. So that's not good.
Yeah. No, and the thing is, and this is something, I guess, which plays into it, was the studio changed hands during production,
which is always a good thing. Always good for the artist.
Just ask Warner Brothers; it always works out just fine. But according to Dante, that there was like an hour and a half of footage. Now, obviously, we're talking rough cut stuff. It wasn't going to be a 3.5 hour movie or anything like that. But that, I guarantee you, there's another and or a different 15 minutes somewhere that makes this movie a lot better, that would have addressed all of these things about all of a sudden the cop is just like, hey, you go, kids.
And from what I've read, and I'm sure you guys have read as well on Wikipedia, it looks like the cop was in the third act and kind of brought that full circle, which makes a lot more sense. And there was also supposed to be a lot more kind of, not spiritual, but just kind of like they were kind of dipping their toe in this what's out there, we're kind of connectedness, but they never really go anywhere with it. And I think, so I don't know, I'm kind of getting a feeling that if Joe Dante had the clout and ability to add his 20 or 30 minutes or whatever, I don't know if it would have been a better movie. I feel it might have gone even more off the deep end, and people would have been like, what is this left turn into like spiritualism at the end? Because it kind of feels like that's where he was going.
Well, I think that there's no way to reconcile this idea of the spiritualism with the zany ending.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, in if you didn't introduce those type of characters at the end, then I feel like you could have gone with this Star Trek motion picture kind of ending where, like, and that's kind of where I thought things were going to go when we had like the Tron-esque shapes and digital landscape and everything like that. Because, side note, I love that stuff. I love those kind of effects from the 80s, because those kind of shapes and designs, you know, like your brain fills in what they could be. You have no idea what it is.
It's very abstract.
Yes, that's the perfect word for it. It's very abstract, because so much of modern sci-fi, you can pretty much guess what things do, because I mean, like, it's so detailed and everything like that. But there's no room for the abstract. This, I love that aspect of it. But yeah, once they board the wingless bird of prey, it really it goes zany. It goes really zany, and so all that existentialism is out the window.
Yeah.
I feel that a lot of, maybe not enjoyment of this movie, but maybe just whether or not it works or not, hinges on whether you click with the aliens at the end. If you don't, you're kind of not going to enjoy this movie. If you do, and you're like, oh, it's funny, like maybe it's not my take of humor, but I get it, it's going to do better. But it's kind of a zero-sum game. Like, it's either you're in it or you're not, because it is very, if there was the internet back then, this would be the polarizing, topic discussed on Reddit, is what were the aliens all about in the third act of Explorers?
Well, I mean, the idea itself isn't bad. It's almost a Contact-like idea of the only way the aliens would know how to communicate with us is the signals that we send out into space.
And they sterilize.
This is very much Contact before Contact came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's silly to have their dad show up at the end, and
which was like a Star Trek episode. Right. I can't remember the original series episode it was, but it was just like, oh my God, they were kids all along.
Well, which makes me think of the Futurama parody.
Yes.
He's 35. But it's I mean, that's the thing, is like, in a sense, I have to give it credit for just embracing at the end, saying, no, we're just going to be a family-friendly movie. We're not going to do anything. And in a sense, there's sort of a reversal that fits with the times, because, sci-fi was always grim, Soylent Green, Planet of the Apes, stuff like that. And then Star Wars comes along, and all of a sudden it's, okay, well, maybe we want to be more hopeful. And then this feels like part of that wave, that ET wave.
Yeah, this is definitely a post-ET. How do we latch onto that big money? And it's like, really, what if the kids go to visit the alien instead of the alien coming to Earth? Like, that was probably the pitch for this movie.
But even making them non-threatening, making it the idea that they're going to be silly, they're not going to be scary looking, they're just going to be funny and fun, is, it has merit, I think. And I know it's why my dad liked it when he rented it for me when I was a kid, and we watched it. And my dad got a kick out of it.
It's such a tonal left turn, though.
Yeah.
I mean, not that it was a super serious movie. I mean, you can tell that this was aimed at kids, but yet it wasn't wacky and zany. It was three kids. I mean, you can't get too serious, because it was three kids doing space travel. Yeah. Who discovered an alien message and then, got a tilt-a-whirl, which I thought was fantastic.
I love the tilt-a-whirl.
Like, got a tilt-a-whirl and then went into outer space. I mean, that's awesome. That's an awesome premise. But like, there's little bits and pieces where, like Darren is saying, like, oh, there's nothing out there. Like, you don't believe in this stuff, right? And then you have Ethan Hawke's character, who even up until they're getting tractor beamed in, he's eating a sandwich. And he's like, we can't go anywhere. I mean, we got to go do this. This is awesome. You know, he's just he's so excited.
He's so into it. He's I watch sci-fi at night every night. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and then,
the tonal
they had
shift,
to go and then they had to go zany and wacky and then I think that the cherry on top of the ridiculous is how crazy cartoony feminine they made the sister. Like she had a tube top on and she had lipstick and you're just like,
she's like lips and eyes and tube top. And 90% of her character are those three things.
It was just so strange. It was so weird because like at first when they entered the ship, I thought it was really promising because I was like, wow, what a smart way to utilize your special effects budget by going the mechanical route, like making the alien and their technology mechanical instead of organic, because you can build that, you know, like you can just piece that together and make it alien. And with, not a lot of effort isn't the right term, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like organic material and costumes is way harder than just, you know, kit bashing and things like that. And then he started patting down Ethan Hawke, flipped him over, and then started touching his butt. I was like, "What is going on?"
Then took out
what
the
are we
picture
starting here?
Of the yeah.
Well,
and then the whole, you know, like lips and tube top and just.
Well, I mean, in all honesty, what the creature design was reminiscent of for me was another very interesting 1980s movie called Heavy Metal, which is an animated movie. And that's what the alien design reminded me of.
Yeah.
Was that animation style. I was like, "Oh, okay. All right. That's sort of the weird stoner drawing vibe to it."
Heavy Metal is such a distinct and esoteric vibe for itself. You know, like like Heavy Metal knows what it is from beginning to end. And to introduce something like that if Explorers had a Heavy Metal vibe all throughout, that's a different movie. But to bring that like right at the end, it was just weird.
But that's what I'm saying is I'm not saying that it makes it an all-time classic. I'm just saying I respect that they went all in. They didn't go half measure with it. They just said, this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're sticking by. And so I can at least respect committing to the bit.
Yeah, it's the third act is so odd because it feels like a contradiction. In one hand, it feels like this, like you said, this is where we're going to double down. This is where we're going to put our money. Like the money's on the screen. Like they obviously spent a lot on those costumes. But in another way, when I'm watching the third act, it kind of feels like, how do we fill the rest of this runtime? Like, oh, well, let's have them sing a song. Oh, well, let's have them talk TV. Oh, well, let's have them go around the tubes for a while and get lost. Like, it kind of feels like they're just throwing things at the wall. And it's like, but obviously this part had to be extremely scripted out because you have to build all these sets and make all these things. And so it's like a contradiction almost.
I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where I try to understand why Explorers has such a cult following. And I think it's because of the ending. I think it's because it's such a shock ending, subverts expectations, if you will.
Oh, gosh.
Where every time I'm going to do it every single stinking time. But it,
let's here on Houselights. See you guys later. We'll be, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you know. But it's one of those things where I think that's why it has the cult following. It's this cute middle of the road 80s kiddie movie, and then it's just this drug trip for the last 20 minutes, and it's like, cool, that's kind of neat.
You sure that's oxygen that circuit's pumping out? You sure?
Well,
oxygen?
pure oxygen is going to get you high.
That's
right?
true. It's true.
I always got this and Flight of the Navigator confused.
Same.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Same. Well, it wasn't, I mean, Flight of the Navigator came out.
One has 3 kids.
But isn't Flight of the Navigator like it came out like a couple of years later, and it's very much like Disney was like, we could do that better or something like that.
That feels like it. Yeah. It feels later than this.
Because I know that my dad liked that one too. So these are both movies that we rented in the Mills household late in the 80s.
Yeah, we watched Flight of the Navigator way more than this one. I don't even remember actually watching this one, and that's actually a question that we forgot to answer. Is that like I don't know if I've ever seen this all the way through. So this was actually my first time watching it all the way through. Yeah, or enough to remember it.
So your first time, kind of in memory, watching it, and then John, you probably watched this at a younger age.
Yeah, I did. I watched it on video. I haven't come back to it in a very long time, but this is definitely one of those movies where even though I haven't watched it in decades, as it's going, it's that sort of jogging your memory. You go, oh yeah, right. Yep, I get it. Right. This is going to happen next, sort of thing. But what's really interesting is just getting back to the casting, right, with River Phoenix and Ethan Hawke, is River Phoenix. This is his first role, and apparently, according to the Book of Knowledge, because he was raised on a commune in like South America or something like that, because the Phoenix family did it a little different.
Yeah,
and
River and
Leaf, who became Joaquin, but like he would mispronounce words that are everyday usage to us because he didn't know like common slang sort of stuff. And so apparently it became a point of humor on set because he would say something that one of us would take for granted, a cultural point, and he would just mispronounce the word terribly, and people would just, kind of giggle about it. Like, oh, how does this kid not know this word? But it's so weird when you think about it, because like that's just something I'd love to peel apart, is what kind of experience would it have been for River Phoenix to come out of that environment and then be in this Hollywood environment? That had to be so jarring, so weird to get into this sort of environment from that. Like, I don't know, man. Like or was there something familiar about Wolfgang's family to him that he could relate to, that he, that sort of like
always present
vibe.
Parents, way too many kids, and
it's just that sort of less structured vibe. Let's put it that way. Something a little more just sort of free flowing.
Right.
Than
you're old enough to take care of yourself. We're raising the rest of the family. You just go down to the basement and do your thing with your friends.
Yeah. Well, I mean, which is also an 80s trope, honestly. It's like the older kids are just left alone to do whatever they need to do, which is interesting.
We'll get back to the third actor, Darren Presson, or not Darren Presson, Jason Presson, Darren Woods. But Tristan, I wanted to ask you about Robert Picardo. We get Robert Picardo, who is in many Joe Dante films. He played many roles in this. What did you think about from Star Killer to Zach?
I loved seeing Bob Picardo in this because, like, when he pops up as Star Killer, in the drive-in, I was just like, wait a second. Is that the EMH? Is that the doctor? What's going on? And then when Whack came out, I was like, whoa, wait, no, that's Bob Picardo's voice. Like that has to be him. And then when I started watching really closely and seeing, I was like, wait, his mouth is matching that voice too perfectly, even for ADR. I was like, he has to be in that suit. And so I did a little research, and he is in that suit.
Yeah, I heard it was hell. It looks
that's what I read too. Is that he got lesions on his head because it was so heavy, and they just left him that way during lunch. No, I thought he was great, and I am one of those people who is such a hardcore Voyager fan where whenever I see Picardo, I
really,
feel like, yeah, me, I've done a few shows about Voyager, but I honestly, I love his style. I always thought that he'd be, I'm not trying to diminish anything. I always thought he would be much more popular. When I saw his work when I saw his TV work, even in the 80s and 90s, I thought it was just like, man, we're going to see this guy in lead roles, but he's just such a great character actor.
Yeah.
That, he constantly gets work outside of a lead role. And I think that's his wheelhouse. And I loved it. I thought he brought a lot of energy to the role, and even though I didn't really dig on the ending because it was so wacky and zany, he committed to it. He absolutely committed and did a great job. Like, he understood what he was there to do, and he did it. And what's really funny is the first thing I thought of when they were talking about like TV programs and they were talking through cliches and TV quotes, I was just like, oh, that's like how Bumblebee did it in the first Transformers movie. And then I looked it up, and Frank Welker did some of the voice work and impression work for Whack. And Frank Welker is, of course, from the Transformers franchise, and it just made me laugh that there was that kind of connection.
Now, you guys answer me this, because there's one shot during the drive-in movie theater, and this is how I read it. It was really weird. So this is when they're flying in the Thunder Road, and they're watching the Star Killer movie, Bob Picardo's, being Star Killer, and then it starts to go haywire, and so the ship crashes into the projection house, and it looks like Star Killer is reacting to that event happening. Like, he's looking up and around and setting up things back up that had fallen over. And it had this vibe of like, are they shooting this live in some back room of did you get that vibe too? That's what it felt like to me, which was really odd.
I missed that. Yeah.
I think that's just supposed to be like
how cheesy it is of the sci-fi.
A double nod, because the thing is, obviously he's named Star Killer as a tribute to Lucas's original name for Luke, and all of those sorts of things. But also there were so many low budget and or Italian knockoffs of Star Wars that where the set pieces were that terrible. I've seen several of them.
That's true,
and they're all awful. But there's. I think it's just supposed to be one of those like movie within a movie timing sort of things. But yeah, like it doesn't, to your point, it doesn't work quite as well as it should, where it could have been a little smoother and or dropped, honestly.
It's kind of like, let's just use Bob Picardo for one more role. Why not? We have him on the set. Gag. Or you're guaranteed some face time that's not wrapped in green, rubber.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I feel bad for Robert Picardo, specifically because of what he went through with the makeup in that movie. And it's like, actors go, we don't often think about how much an actor can go through for a role. And I think just considering the fact that the payoff of those aliens was not everything that maybe it could have been. It could have been, I don't know. I mean, it's just, it's putting so much into it just in the hopes that you're going to have the next E.T. or something like that. And instead it's a dud.
I think
you mean the next Mac and Me.
It is the next Mac and Me.
Nobody means the next Mac and Me. Nobody ever means that.
But I think you're right with payoff. I mean, we talk about this tonal shift between Act 2 and Act 3 when they get to the ship. And I think a lot of it is payoff, because literally up until them getting to the ship, it's a type A story. It's a mystery. It's intrigue. We're going to build the ship and we're going to figure out what's going on. And then when they get there, it is a completely different type of story once they're on the ship. And it, in a way, it kind of doesn't pay off. Like, they've hyped it so much. It's like, what could they show you that is worth that buildup? And I don't know if the third act was enough to build up for that.
Yeah, but by the same token, I will defend the ending. Again, it's not an all-time classic. There are problems with it, that sort of thing.
I'm not saying it's terrible, but
what I'm saying is, like, the typical 1980s sort of thing would have been for the kids to find out this was a secret military project that they accidentally picked up on and stuff like that. The
like
thing that
Daryl.
I think is, the thing that I think is really bizarre about the ending is that they all enter, this shared dream, which happens, midway through. But then the dream is about like, hey, I'll meet you all in my dreams. And there's this weird, I don't know. Like somebody else being in my dreams is this weird Freddy Krueger sort of violation. It's like, I don't want other people in my dreams. It's weird.
Well,
man.
and Darren had said, like, I never dream except for now. So it's like, is this what dreams are like? You share them with people? This is odd. This is weird.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And it's, and even the way that it ends feels like it's just done like it's supposed to be a setup for a series. It's almost done like the ending of a TV show where it's like, here's the pilot, and now come back every week for these magic dreams.
Wasn't turned into a TV show of all the ones that weren't.
Right? When they started flying around and like Ethan Hawke and the girl started holding hands, I half expected her to start quoting Margot Kidder going,
yes,
can you read my mind? Do you know what it is that you do to me? I don't know who you are. Just a friend from another star. You know, like I half expected that to come out. I was like, what is going on?
I do want to thank you for reminding me of the low point of any John Williams career retrospective is going to be the lyrics to that song. Okay, so thank you for reminding me of that. Because I hate that. I hate those lyrics. So that is the one moment in the 1978 Superman where I'm like, fast forward, just go on through.
All right. Oh, wait. Well, I think we've talked about the ending enough. I want to talk about what I think is the highlight of the movie, building the ship. I mean, that, where they're in the, and it's connected because, like, his dad hauls junk. He knows where the junkyard is. Like, it's not. They does a good job of staying on this side of plausible, for all the things that happen in this movie, at least in the first part. But Tristan, did you want to go down to the junkyard? Well, actually, never mind. You watched this like yesterday, but but even still, did you want to go down to the junkyard and pull something together? Like that was right up my alley. Like found kit bashed, tilt-a-whirl spaceships are where it's at.
I was going to say, you as a builder, as someone who
I love
creates things
so much
as a hobby. It's hard to call it a hobby because you're so good at it. But
when you don't get paid, you could call it a hobby. So
there you go. Yeah, we'll stick with hobby. But I definitely thought of you while I was watching the scene. Like, no, like I wish I saw this more as a kid so that I'd have a little bit more of a nostalgia factor, because that scene was that stuff was cool. I mean, the tilt-a-whirl stuff was like the idea that they got one of those.
It's such a, it's one of those things, like you always wish you could take it home as a kid. Like it's such an odd shape.
That's such an odd thing to find in a dumpster, but the idea to take it home, build onto it, and create a spaceship. I think where they kind of lost me just a little bit was when they had like the suitcase as the flap at the top.
Well, it's obviously not pressurized. It doesn't need to be, though.
Yeah. It was just kind of odd. You're right. But no, I love the idea of three kids building something together. Like there were certain times when it felt like, like it was three kids who found something cool, and so they're building something awesome together. And then other times it felt like three kids who found their dad's gun.
True.
Also fun.
True. What about you, John? Did you enjoy this part?
Yeah.
Have maybe a little bit more of a nostalgia lens to it? I mean, who doesn't love kids building stuff? Like, it's just always fun.
I love the fantasy angle of you can build a spaceship with something like that. That was sort of the, in the mechanical engineering mindset that was there. You weren't programming computers. You were taking physical things and putting them together and making a spaceship and what kid didn't put something together with the thought of, well, this could be a real thing. Like it's the same thing that drove you as a kid to put together Lego sets or draw designs for ships, where it's like, okay, and this is where I'm going to sit, and this is where I'm going to have the TV and the oxygen and stuff like that. Oh, right, I got to get a thrust thing, but I don't need power for my computer. It's important not to have power for the computer.
A bag of snacks is all we need, and provisions. That's Chips Ahoy.
Hey, listen, Chips Ahoy. That's fast energy, my friend. That'll get you through space flight.
Now, I have shown this movie to my children, who I think I showed them about a year ago, so they would have been around 5 and 9, and they enjoyed it. I think they were young enough to just, again, the zany parts were zany, and they don't they're not trying to overanalyze analyze it. The parts where they're building is cool. They love that a character's named Darren, their dad's name. So, all the high points I had as a kid, they had as well. But I think it still held up though for a kid audience, which I thought was good.
Yeah, how can you not get a kick out of it? I mean, but the thing is that it gets to another one of the flaws of the movie because, of course I know where the junkyard is because my dad hauls junk. And there are these hints that Darren has a not great home life.
Yeah. Alcoholic father,
but they're just
down in life.
It's not, I'll put the question to the floor. Were they wise just to leave it as a loose sketch, or did we need to have a little bit more of a sense of sorrow motivating Darren? Like it's just a weird thing. I don't know whether they should have gone farther with it or not.
I actually kind of appreciated that they didn't go too far with it because it's so tired. And I'm not saying that that doesn't happen, obviously. I mean, I'd be an idiot if I said that. But like, especially during this day and age of the 80s and 90s, it was such a trope for one kid out of a group of three or four.
On the other side of the
five.
Tracks.
Yeah, he's on the other side of the tracks. He has a horrible home life, but the heart of gold and everything like that. And he's like the pity friendship along for the ride. And I was glad that he was like, yeah, it's like my dad's, he's not bad. He's just not lucky. I liked that idea where he didn't have everything or his home life wasn't that great, but it wasn't because his dad was an alcoholic who beat him. And it was because he's just like, oh yeah, he's not lucky. Like he's
low class, lower class, and just he had a Walkman, but he prized it because he's like, if you broke it, I'm going to be mad because he's not going to get a new one.
And he didn't have anything bad to say about a stepmom. Like, how often do we hear that in a movie?
That's true.
Yeah. Or not his stepmom, but I think it was just his girlfriend.
His
girlfriend. Yeah. Well, so that I was actually appreciative of. But then when. Like, I was a little confused because, like, when Darren got separated, when they were on the spaceship, and then he started having visions and, like, tapping into whatever that dreamscape was, I was like, wait, are they going to, like, have him stay behind? And I'm like, no, because they didn't explicitly say that he had the worst home life ever.
Right.
Because if he had the worst home life ever, then he would stay on the spaceship. But due to movie logic, no, he has to go home.
Fair enough.
I mean, he is the third friend trope. He's the new one that's interjected into the story, into the friendship. Obviously, Ben and Wolfgang, great child name, are long time friends. And again, we see it now with Stranger Things. You got the radios. You talk to your best friends. Got the radio. You talk to them. Your house is just 3 doors down on the creek, and it's very 80s. Like it's not in a formula way, just that's what movies were back then. Speaking of the characters, this was something that struck me, again, during the ending when Ethan Hawke and River Phoenix are off alone, making their way through the ship. Would it have been a better choice to have it just be the two friends and not have a third friend to basically focus the story? Oh, like a buddy movie. Right. And so that things could maybe move a little bit faster so that you don't have to have an extra introduction or any extra scenes. I understand that Darren serves the purpose of getting them to the junkyard so that they know, but in a large sense, it seems to me like this movie could have operated without the character. And I never want to say that about a character. I always want to think that the movie that I'm watching, these characters are necessary. Are you trying to take Darren out of this? Because I don't think you want to take Darren. No, I just kidding. Yeah, not just because of the name. Suddenly you're like the Jimmy in Seinfeld. Darren's very upset about that statement. Darren's very upset that you should. Yeah. No, I see what your point. I don't feel that his part of the plot is that tenuous. I mean, he is defending, the friendship feels organic from him defending him in the beginning. Like, yes, he's obviously there for the junk portion, but he also is along for the ride, and he's, kind of balancing out Ben's extreme fanaticism with sci-fi, and Darren's just kind of like, yeah, it's kind of cool. Like you need something to kind of balance it because, Ben is like at an 11. He is quoting This Island Earth and stuff like on a regular basis. So I felt he fit in the trio, but I do see your point of they maybe could have, with more screen time for the Ben Wolfgang friendship, developed it even more. Although I don't know what more there would have really been to develop. Like I had friends like that true. Where, we were friends because we went to the same school and we went to each other's houses, but we didn't necessarily, we're in elementary school or whatever. We're kids. We didn't have super deep relationships yet.
Right. Yeah.
Not until after we built the spaceship. Then things got serious.
Well, but the thing is, like you mentioned Stranger Things earlier, and it's like that's one of those things that's easy to forget is these movies, I think, in the 80s do at least a decent job of presenting that reality of it, that your friends when you're a kid, you have friends of circumstance. There's no great feeling of like, we were destined to be friends. It's like, no, we're both in the same class. You want to hang out? Sure. And
we live on the same block. Great.
Yeah.
Makes it even easier. Like that was it. That was the basis of friendship, was proximity.
Yeah. Proximity.
Yeah, basically. But something that did strike me while I was watching this is in the 80s, there's a real, I don't know the exact phrase I'm looking for, so I'll just say like golden age. Not that, but like in the 80s, a lot of the directors who made movies that landed with audiences that lasted, whether it's Hughes, Dante, Spielberg, Lucas, they're all making this effort to speak to or about childhood. And it's really interesting because that is one of those things, and this isn't like old man yelling at cloud sort of thing, but I think that's something that is lost in the content flood that we have. Is in the 80s, there was this unified thought process, this almost accidental groupthink of we're going to present stories to and for kids in a way that they can relate to them and, absorb them. And I almost wonder sometimes if that is something that's been lost in the way that content is now presented. And it's neither good nor bad. I'm just saying, like, is it something that maybe was so special about the movies of that time and why people are so nostalgically tied to everything from that era is because it was speaking specifically to them at that time. There was a concerted effort to speak to kids, basically. So you have movies like E.T. and Explorers, and even you introduce Short Round and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which I know has its own controversial points, but kids are at the center. Kids and teenagers are at the center of Gremlins, and all of these things are very focused on speaking to children in a way that they can relate. And I don't know, this movie really sort of brought that point out to me for some reason.
Well, as we're rounding third, heading back to Earth, hopefully our battery doesn't run out. I wanted to talk about the look of this film because it has a higher budget. It's not on a back lot. And I was kind of thinking about, the shots we saw in Gremlins just the year prior, which did kind of have that, like, this is a sound stage, this is a back lot kind of tightness to it. And I was thinking, like, okay, how well I think, Joe Dante did a great job in this movie expressing the lives of these characters and, more to a point, the science of it. Because yes, there's special effects and you can see the sphere and stuff, but like they have to do a lot of world building to kind of sell this premise. And I think the scene in the basement and the scene on the hill, he does a really good job of like I said before, we're just on like this side of plausible. Like he's keeping it just, it's fantasy and this circuit came out of their dreams, but I could always track and follow with it. But what did you think of the locations, the building of this Goonies era look? Do you feel it obviously was on a Joe Dante level? Is he progressing? Is it looking better, or is that just money that they gave him to increase it?
It felt drab to me. I was completely uninspired by the cinematography, and the color scheme was so bland.
Well, they put all the color in whack at the end. That's where all the color went in the entire.
It was so strange. And I think that's what really got to me, is that like as I'm watching this movie, I was just like, I kept trying to check my settings on my monitor, like what did I put on the bleach pass here? Is this a Spielberg film in the early 2000s? Like what's going on? And yeah, I just like I thought it was very utilitarian with the cinematography. It was uninspired, and the color scheme was just like grays and blues and light greens. It was just very one note, in my opinion.
What about you, John?
I think I don't discount that. I think there's a little bit too much of a soft focus in a lot of this.
I think you're right. Yeah.
But I can't help but wonder if there is if this has been done dirty by the transfers through the years.
Yeah,
like that's really the sense that I get, where it's like it's
getting
washed
the HD
out because
treatment and it wasn't color timed or balanced right.
Yeah,
you can't find a good transfer of this movie, so it's very possible.
Yeah. So,
well, and at the end of the day, they're like, as long as the red and Fury Road and the green and whack looks good, I don't care what the rest of this movie looks like. Like that's kind of where all the money went.
Basically. But no, I do think that some of the stuff is nice. In terms of the look, like some of the outdoor stuff. In terms, Darren, of talking about money. Well, there are a couple of crane shots in it, and if anything says money in a movie, it's crane shots, because that's an extra couple of $1,000s right there.
Flying rigs, miniatures,
exactly,
makeup effects. I mean,
and
I say they put the money on the screen though, like it's there.
But speaking of the effects, like this is ILM, their first major production with another studio. What did you think of them? Do you think these effects hold up, or are these good for their time?
I'd say they hold up pretty well. There's a couple of shots. There's two shots that I think kind of dip, and not to pick out the two shots that I think dip, but when they're entering the non-winged bird of prey, there's like a spin around shot where it's coming towards the camera and then it spins and it's going away, and it feels like this is two elements we're comping together, and it doesn't quite track. And then also the spherical leg walking robot felt like it's floating, like it's not actually walking on those pegs or whatever, which again, minor nitpicks. I think
it needed a few more frames to feel a little bit more fluid.
It didn't feel like it had a weight, like it was supported by the legs. The body is moving almost like it's suspended by a rod, and then the legs are kind of animated around it. Made me kind of think of some of the things from The Labyrinth, where they're, kind of creature effects and stuff. But I'd say the exteriors of the ships were impeccable. The alien costumes, tube tops withstanding, are high class. And the Fury Road itself, like there are times when I'm trying to tell, like, am I looking at the full size or am I looking at the miniature? Like that's their bread and butter, is making it look the same. So I think ILM did a great job. I don't remember if they won anything for this, but
I don't think so. But I agree with you. And I think that, because I was paying special attention to them looking out the windows of the Thunder Road, I was like, that holds up pretty well. I mean, it's, ILM was really pushing the limits of what you could do with blue screen back then. And it's a pretty bold choice to do windows. Like they could have theoretically designed something where there was no windows, because it's like, guys, this is just too tough, because we got two different windows. We got to, it's not like a nice big screen. So yeah, I think they pulled things off pretty well. The only time it really feels super duper dated to me is when Wolfgang is trapped in that sphere going around. And I think that's just because there's no way to get around that. Yeah. Because the lighting, there's no way that lighting
is not going to match.
And there's no way that Wolfgang's going to look three-dimensional. He looks like a picture pasted onto another piece of film. And it's like, that's just how it is.
It feels like Reboot, like that era graphics. Like, yeah, like they took a 3-dimensional projection and put it on the inside / outside of a sphere, and it kind of works. But
yeah, but you know, by and large, I think it holds.
Yeah, I think so. Did you have any thoughts on the special effects, Tristan? Or
no, I think you guys hit it.
All right. Well, John, we're going to start with you as the only one of us who was maybe could have seen this in 85, maybe.
Oh, I saw it after 85. I lived in the middle of nowhere, so everything was on video.
That's right.
So the earliest I would have seen this would have been
I keep forgetting, but
yeah. Earliest I would have seen this would have been like 86 or 87, probably. When it came to my non-branded mom and pop video store. And or one of my cousins pirated it from something. Oh, wait, did the statute of limitations go out? I can turn narc on them, no problem. But I would give this a solid 3. I think that its intentions are strong. I think that there is real charm. I think that they did an absolutely bang-up job casting Hawke and Phoenix. They are absolute finds as child actors. And so, yeah, solid 3. That's where I land.
That's a really good point. We didn't really touch on, like, this could have been super cringeworthy the entire time with children actors, but I think you're right, John. I think especially those two, and and the character Darren, like, I think he did fine, but the other two, they are the leads and they carry the film. Like, they're in almost every shot of this movie. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Tristan, with all of those half points and you're not giving it a nostalgia bonus, I'm curious to see where Explorers falls on your rankings.
Well, I'm a huge Ethan Hawke fan. Huge. I love his stuff. I try to see whatever I can of his. And so it was nice to see his first film, which I had never seen before. And he's also a fantastic author. And just wanted to throw that out there. That if you haven't read any of his books, all of them are fantastic. I didn't know that. So check them out. Check them out. The Hottest State is one of my favorite books of all time. So yeah, it was nice to see that. And of course, like, I echo what John said about River Phoenix and the Ethan Hawke. They were absolute finds. They did great jobs. But for me, this film just really missed the mark. It was like, the idea was really fun and really cool. And I would have loved this as a kid, but I felt like the execution was really poor, and like with the helicopter storyline just absolutely not making an impact whatsoever. Like, it was absolutely pointless. And as was the girl storyline. Why on earth was that storyline a part of this film? Why on earth was that storyline a part of this film? You got to have
the love interest in some way.
It was so unneeded. And then having this complete and utter tonal shift at the end, and then having that Margot Kidder Superman dream flying thing. There's so many left turns in this film. I'm going to have to give it a 2.
All right. Just crushing Darren's movie. It's so fine. No. I will say, I was trying to figure out what I was going to rate this one, because I mean, this is a fan favorite for me. I love the nostalgia of it. I love the fact that the character's named Darren. You got to get extra bonus points for that. And just like you said, being a maker and a bunch of friends making a spaceship and flying in. But yeah, that tonal shift in that third act, I'll probably watch the middle act multiple times. Just watch them building the ship and experimenting. Like, that's really cool. Like, I honestly fast forward through some parts where they're just exploring and hadn't meet the aliens yet. I'm like, oh yeah, it's gray and dark for like 10 minutes before we actually find anything. And I was kind of bored, because that part that's where I felt like that's the part of the third act where it's like they're throwing things to fill the runtime, is what it felt like. Yeah. So I don't think nostalgia is going to be able to pull it up after the batteries die. I'm also going to give it a 3. I still think it's definitely, I own a copy of it. I own a DVD of it. It's, it's definitely something I enjoy. I really enjoyed sharing it with my kids. I really wanted to show it to them when they'd be old enough to appreciate it. But I'm not also popping this in every week to relive the assembly days. So, I think it did miss the mark on what it was trying to be, but it still, is a good post ET, type story. We all know what that is. All right. Well, John, will you tell us what we are going to be talking about next week here on Houselights, where we might be going?
We are going to be going where no body has gone before. Inner Space, starring Dennis Quaid and Martin Short in a delightful comic spin. I don't know if it's delightful. I can't stand behind that. It's been a long time since I watched it, but they promised me it's delightful. Comic spin on Fantastic Voyage, basically. And yeah. Let's see if it works. I remember the ads for the movie, and I remember a lot of positive press for the effects in it. And I have seen it. I look forward to seeing it for this. So, Darren, Tristan, you guys excited?
I'm really excited. Yeah, because I watched this movie a lot growing up.
There you go.
Yeah, this one is one of my favorites as well. I'm pretty much sure it's going to get a 4 or 5, just even off the bat. I don't think it's going to fall in a rewatch this week. It's from visual effects to everything else. But here we are already rating it and talking about it before next week. We hope you enjoy listening to this episode of Houselights. We are enjoying as we go through Dante of the 80s. Please give us a review on iTunes to help other people listen to us and find this wonderful show as we talk about movie directors, or go to thenerdparty.com where you can find a variety of shows from science fiction, Harry Potter, making 80s, all sorts of great stuff. It's in the name, Nerd Party. Check it out. And we will all catch you here, still in the 80s, next week on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.